We are live now.
Let's go. Hi, my name is Michael Waitze, and welcome back to eCommerce UnderCover. Thankfully, we had no technical problems today.
Not at all, right?
So it was nice and easy. I'm in the studio, as always, with my co-host and my good friend, Martin Ronfort, the founder of DrTech, the most fully featured. Would you say innovative? An innovative platform.
I think, Michael, we are talking about innovation in e-commerce every week.
So if it wasn't innovative, right? So if it wasn't innovative, it wouldn't be the best way to get online.
Definitely.
I got it. Well, we're lucky today because today we have a guest.
Yeah, definitely.
Not in the studio. Next time he's going to travel to Bangkok. He's going to sit here in the room with us.
It would be awesome.
It would be awesome, yeah. And then there'd be no echo, I think.
And no chance for any technical issue.
Problems. Irzan, it's great to have you. Irzan Raditya. Did I get that right? The CEO and co-founder of Kata.ai.
Yeah, correct. Thanks.
It's great to have you,
Michael and Martin.
It's great to have you here. Before we get to the main topic, if there is a main topic today, can we get a little bit of your background and maybe get a better understanding of what Kata.ai is?
Yeah, definitely. So I started my career, I think, back in 2011. But before that, I almost spent 8 years in Germany, in Berlin, where I got my bachelor degree in computer science. Yep. And then I spent some time doing software engineering. So I was an engineering at heart. So I was a mobile app developer, working in a couple of startups in Berlin, Germany. One of them coming from Rocket Internet, Zalando. And then before I went back to Indonesia to start my own venture, I was the head of mobile product of takeaway.com. So one of the largest food delivery service in Europe.
Oh, wow. So can I ask you this? You said you got your computer science degree in Berlin?
Yes.
And was that in German or was that in English?
In Germany.
No,
the course. In German.
In German. So you were a fluent speaker of German?
I had to, otherwise I couldn't eat.
No, this is interesting to me. So did you learn German before you went? Like, how did that happen?
It was kind of tricky, so to speak. So I finished my high school in 2007.
Okay.
And then I spent like 6 months after that learning Deutsch, German, in a course like from 8 to 3 p.m. Every day.
In Indonesia,
in Jakarta, Indonesia. Yeah. But when I arrived in Berlin in 2009 in January, I remember, I turned on the TV in my apartment. I watched SpongeBob. I understood nothing.
And that was SquarePants SpongeBob in German, you're saying?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
and I spent,
right?
Yeah. So I think I was quite thankful that I have this pre-college preparation for almost 1 year.
Right.
In that moment, I learned a lot about German.
And what was your interest in learning German as opposed to learning Mandarin or learning French or Spanish?
Well, I think it was by accident, so to speak.
Okay.
Because when I was trying to find where I should go for my bachelor degree for my university,
right.
I have a couple of options, like either going to Australia, to Canada, to Germany. So it seems that to Canada and to Australia, it seems quite costly. While for even like foreign students to study in Germany, it could be like zero cost, so to speak. So I didn't spend a dime for my study in Germany. I just had to learn the language, did all the preparations, all the tests, and then voila, I got the place there.
I did not know it was almost free to go to study in Germany. I know in France we had some nice program like to host some foreign students, because I guess you can hear that I'm French, right?
Shocking.
So
yeah.
so yes, I know we have some great programs, but I didn't know that in Germany, which you could like actually study there almost for free. That's nice.
Yeah, quite similar program, because the agency that I was at, there are a couple of students who went to Germany, and a couple of students who went to France for similar programs, so to say.
Nice.
Got it. It's so interesting to me, right? Because most people don't know this, but Indonesia is actually really close to Australia, just geographically, which means that, a lot of Australians come to Bali and come to Jakarta and stuff like that, and vice versa. I love the fact that you said I'm not going to do kind of the easy thing, which would just be to go to, you know, the University of New South Wales or whatever and study in English, but to go to Germany, learn German, watch, you know, SpongeBob SquarePants, I think, which was the best thing you've done. And then learn the language, also learn computer science. I think it's actually really cool. Anyway, why don't you tell us what Kata.ai is? I don't think we got there, but I think it's also cool you worked at Rocket, which is in and of itself a unique experience. Yeah.
Definitely. And you could not have this kind of experience if you were not going to Germany, right? Because as you said, you work with Zalando, and Zalando now in Europe is like very, very, very big. It's actually, I think, the number one marketplaces if you want to go buy shoes.
Is it really?
It's like huge. Yeah, like for me in France, for example, when I was still in France, Zalando, like everybody knows, everybody uses. It's like not normal, right? It's like maybe the same awareness as Amazon in France, like just to tell you like how big it is.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so like if you were there and you work there, like it's definitely worth learning German. Definitely, you know, like to work into this kind of company and an environment. I guess you learned a lot, and then now you can apply that to your own venture. It must be very great.
Yeah, I learned a lot during my career years, but still, I wish I could learn more. But anyway, going back to Michael's questions here. So I think when it went back in 2010. So when I was studying, I took a couple of part-time jobs in Berlin. So one of them, I was assigned to a job where I need to work at a call center, supporting customers for some UK brands, like answering inquiries coming from UK, so to speak. I did like telemarketing, I did like customer service. I did that, I think, for around like 2 months. And I feel like the job is very repetitive. I feel like the job is very mundane and tedious. I came to the point like, oh man, I kept repeating the same script over and over again. What if one day this job could be automated by robot, by machine, right? And then long story short, I finished my study. I did my career here and there. And then in 2015, there's a trend booming in the tech space globally. They call it virtual assistant, AI-powered virtual assistant. I think the trend was started by Magic in the US. So Magic made a headline everywhere, like in the big news outlets, after somebody made an order for a tiger over SMS. And then my spirit at the beginning, like I wanted to go back to my home country and then trying to implement what I learned in Europe from the west to the east. And then I tried to find like what's a very exciting opportunity. And looking at the trend of Magic and a lot of similar companies and startups popping up everywhere doing that. And looking at the Indonesian market, people love to be served. They love texting. So it's a mass population that use back then Blackberry and SMS and WhatsApp. Yeah. Yeah, Blackberry Messenger was a hit in 2010. And then people love to be served and people love ease. And then in 2015, before it was Kata.ai, it was a B2C company, by the way, called Yes Boss. Back then, I was still working at my last, workplace. My co-founders, whom also good friends of mine who studied in Germany, they went back first in June 2015 to set up the operations in Indonesia. I was still in Germany, but I told them, hey guys, I'll go back to Indonesia as long as we can secure a seed funding. And then came to a point, I was very lucky. I had a phone call with Kai Liang, the managing partner of 500 Startups, back in, I think, August. It was a pitch in the evening. And in the morning, he handed me the term sheet. And then that's the exact moment, okay, I'm going back for good. So I went back to Indonesia.
Can I jump in? So you did the pitch to Kylie when you were in Germany. You did it over Skype or something.
Skype, yeah. Before Zoom era. Yeah, and then so I went back, but essentially, what was Yes Boss? So Yes Boss was a virtual assistant service that could be, accessed through SMS and mobile applications for customers to order anything, from food delivery, e-commerce ordering, book a flight, book a hotel room, book a restaurant, blah blah. But with a catch, it was done manually. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, from day one, my co-founders and I, know that in order to make this be scalable, you would need some capability in artificial intelligence, especially in machine learning and NLP, natural language processing, the capability of machine to understand humans' natural language. But again, here's kind of like the chicken and egg problem. You couldn't build the natural language processing model, like the AI model, without having any data sets. So the question is like, who have the data? Of course, the likes of Blackberry Messenger, Line, WhatsApp, and whatnots. Nobody would like to share this data with us. So we did what is called in machine learning term as cold turkey start. So for 1 year, we employed like 50 customer service agents, handling tens of thousands of requests coming from the customers. I think from that point, then you guys want to ask something before I jump into the Kata.ai?
Yeah, I just didn't get that term. You said that term is called what?
Cold turkey start.
Cold turkey start. Got it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. Can I just want to back up again? So first of all, I remember Yes Boss.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I remember it very well.
Thanks,
actually, and I remember, no, not at all. And I remember the first time I went to Indonesia kind of for business. Not the first time I went to Indonesia was back in like 1991. But the first time I went to Indonesia for business, I believe in 2012 or 2013, I remember being surprised by the sort of preponderance of mobile phone usage was on the Blackberry. And because of that, Blackberry had that SMS system. I can't remember the name of it anymore, but that's what everybody used.
Yeah, this is Blackberry Messenger back then.
Yeah, Blackberry Messenger. So everybody used that. In other words, they weren't using WhatsApp yet. They weren't using, there was no Line back then, but Blackberry Messenger was the thing that made it really sticky. And I remember sitting in a coffee shop with somebody downstairs in one of the malls, right? And they said, look, I can order something through SMS. And I was kind of blown away, right? And I think that's going to inform a lot of the rest of this conversation because I didn't remember that at the time that we started doing this, but I know Yes Boss. I've definitely heard of it. Anyway, so you
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, so you did this call, and obviously I know Kai Lee. I've known him for almost a decade. Anyway, but you did this cold turkey start, and then what happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so while we're building the traction for Yes Boss, serving hundreds of thousands of customers. And then in parallel, our machine learning team and some linguists, we are building the AI model to understand the Indonesian language. Because Indonesian language is very much complex, even though we're using the typical alphabet A to Z. But when it comes to the texting language, let's say in English, when it comes to the first person pronoun, be it in informal or formal language, you could only find I, right? There's only one variation.
In English, yeah.
However, if you speak like Indonesian language or Bahasa Indonesia over texting, you go to the casual one, you can find 13 types of how people type I.
Really?
How many times? Yes. How many times? 13?
13, yeah.
Wow.
So that's one thing, none of the others.
So actually, in French, we also have like a lot of variation of language, right? And I don't know how it is in German, but in French, like we also like have a lot of ways to write words and to express ourselves, So my question is like, when you say the 13 way to say hi when you want to say that, like, is there like 13 different words, or is there like 13 complete different ways on making the sentence and making that and 13 different meanings in the end that almost sound the same thing at the end?
And don't worry, Martin, it's not that complex. By the way, it's not hi, but I.
Like
the first person pronoun.
Yeah.
I, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So when Martin says hi, he actually means I. It's his friend's pronunciation.
Okay. Apologize.
I'm
not used to it yet. Anyway, it's variations of how people type it. So, for example, I can mention like saya or sy being abbreviated like gue. It's more casual one, GUE or GW. Or some people are just using like G for I, for example. And aku, and it's crazy variations. Okay, so many.
They kind of have that also in Thailand, actually. Like in Thailand, like there is like so many ways to write stuff with our alphabet, because like when they don't use the Thai alphabet, but they use the one we use for English and French, like they also like type Thai the best way they can. So in the end, it's like sometimes it's just like really not the same way at all between several people.
Yeah, and the funny thing is in Japanese, they almost never use pronouns.
Already. So actually, like it must be kind of hard, like to include all of this variation when you want to automate.
When you want to do natural language processing, when you want to do artificial intelligence, and when you want to do the backend stuff, all the machine learning to teach it, right? That's got to be really difficult, no?
That's difficult, and you need data and you need talents who have been experienced in that field, which is, I would say, like the creme de la creme, like very, very niche. And then, I think going back to my story, we came to a point in late 2016, our cash was running low. It's so hard to build attraction because the services are very manual. And I think it was part of my mistake as well as a co-founder, that we were trying to be everything for everyone, because you can order like literally anything. And then we'll use like the likes of Gojek, Grab, Tokopedia, Lazada as a proxy to order those things done by our customer service.
Right.
And then, so we had to make the tough decision. From 100 people we have in the team back then, so we had to let go like 90 of them.
Oh no.
But but we were quite lucky, because at the same time our NLP model was ready for production, so the research has been coming to fruition. The second thing is that we got this working collaboration opportunity coming from Line, the messenger company, and also from Unilever. So the contract is so big, and then it could be like similar, like typical seed funding. And then we just build the prototype. Hey, sir, ma'am, you can see here, we have the first Indonesian speaking chatbot. They wanted to build a virtual female best friend online messenger. And when we showcased them, and then they were very happy. So we saw that, if Unilever wants it, that means other companies in FMCG sectors, they want it. Right. Means that company in e-commerce, telecom, banking, they would need a solution. So I think that's the rationale why we changed our direction from B2C to B2B, from YesBoss to Kata.ai in 2017 early.
Okay, so you used all the intelligence and all the information that you built basically from YesBoss, and then you did all of that and you used that for creating another product for another type of customer, right?
Correct, Martin. So we collected like over 4 million messages during the YesBoss time.
Okay. And what happened then to YesBoss? Like why did you stop that at that time?
Sorry, Martin, could you please repeat your question again?
Sorry, like what happened to YesBoss? Did you just stop?
We had to shut it down. We don't have any option. We had to make a tough call. People are sad because they felt like the connection, having a virtual assistant is a free to use service. They just need to pay the service and then like their food and stuff. But we need to survive by the end of the day.
Because it was not profitable, right? Like you just could not keep doing this way.
Yeah, the mindset was like, let's try to grow at all costs. And then, so the profitability was very, very far from there, especially in 2015, like everybody's thinking about growth. Yeah.
Right. It's the wrong way to do it. We can talk about that under separate cover. Everything we do is undercover somehow. Can I ask you this? Was it challenging for you to deal with your investors, or was it necessary for you to have a conversation with, 500 and anybody else that had given you money and said, look, we were everything to everybody, but we don't think that that's the best way to scale. Now that we've got 4 million pieces of data and we feel like we can create the proper natural language processing understanding and our artificial intelligence is ready to go, here's what we want to do. Did you have that conversation with your investors, and what was that like? Was it hard? Was it easy? Did they get it?
Yeah, it was hard, definitely, because we had to make such a pivot, so to speak. But again, the justification, we had this contract, the B2B, let's say commercial contract, becoming a justification. And looking at the trend out there, AI is the future. And in 2016, everyone's talking about AI, conversational AI, chatbots and stuff. So I think we were just lucky. A lot of my journey full of luck, so to speak.
Yeah, actually, I definitely agree with that. That if you had the contract to show them like, hey guys, we're going to do something else using our intelligence, but we already have customers, then it definitely makes sense, right? If you did not have this contract, I think it would be more harder, right? It would not be the same discussion. But as you add that, plus the intelligence and the data and everything was working, why not? Like if YesBoss is not profitable and you're going to have like a hard time to make it profitable, and you can have like a very easy way to profitability thanks to your customers. Like I think if I was an investor, I would say, okay, it makes sense. Like let's go for it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Martin and I talk about a lot is why don't you have a customer?
Yeah.
And it always sounds a little bit too aggressive, but the real question is, what have you done to get a customer? And if it hasn't worked, what are you going to change to get that first customer? Because once you get that first customer, right, everything is relatively easier. Not easy, but it's relatively easier because now you have like a working product and a working paying client, and then you can build other stuff around it. Is that fair?
That's true. Totally agree.
So when did you switch to Kata.ai?
2017?
Yeah.
2017.
It was like late in 2016, but actively like pursuing the B2B model in 2017.
Okay. So it's been 4 years right now?
It's been, 4 years. Yep.
Okay.
In the journey.
I always think it's great to go through a near-death experience in real life as well as in business life, because I think it gives you a much bigger appreciation, but also gives you a sense of urgency to get some stuff done. Yeah?
Totally.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit. I mean, I have a question first, right? And that is, a lot of companies back in 2013, 14, and 15, they were saying they were building these artificial intelligence platforms, and a lot of them didn't do it. And they really just had like a bunch of hamsters running on a bunch of wheels trying to catch up to this stuff to make it look like it was artificially intelligent. But what you guys did was different, I feel like. In other words, you were training data, you hired a bunch of people with the specific reason to create an artificially intelligent, mechanism that could do NLP. What do you do now to still continue to improve the understanding of your artificial intelligence and your chatbots? You still must do, what is it, like learning, right?
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Michael. So I think we had the foundation, and we started with 3 million messages within a year. Now we have crossed over 1 billion conversations to date.
How many?
1 billion, I think.
1 billion conversations?
1 billion, yes.
Geez, I thought I had a lot. I've only recorded 600. You have 1 billion. I feel like I'm really far behind now. I got to get to work.
Yeah, there was 1 billion conversations from hundreds of customers from multiple sectors.
Good for you.
I think what we do right now it's just the tip of the, we barely scratch the surface. Like if we talk about the development of natural language processing, it has been quite massive. If we take a look from the industry last year. So if you have ever heard about OpenAI, the AI research company which is backed by Elon Musk and Microsoft, they launched a new language model called GPT-3, which is trained over 175 billion parameters. And then it really like democratized NLP for everyone, because I've seen a lot of people like doing some experiments, building a website by using like say, please build a website, blah, blah, blah. The layout looks like this, build a mobile app, blah, blah. And I think that's the future, how I can envision like a natural language could democratize people to technology. Because in order to make technology more human, that's how I see the value of AI, bridging the gap between people and technology. So in our case, we still have a lot of homework to be done, because when you go to enterprise, the AI piece is not the only thing. You need to build the whole 9 years around it, making sure the platform is stable. You need to make sure the security, you need to make sure that you can be deployed anywhere. You need to build the software on top of it. So it's like an ongoing effort how we can be more relevant as a conversational AI platform that is being used by enterprises around Southeast Asia. At the same time, like how we can put more advancement on our natural language. And I think the future is, maybe you guys have seen the latest Google I/O announcement. They have this language model called Lambda. So as if you can speak to an object. In that case, what I could remember, Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, he spoke to the Pluto, the planet. So you can ask anything about it as if that you can talk to the planet, but this is in beta. And that's, I think, the future, like less about creating data, but making what we see in the movies, like Iron Man has Jarvis, has a vision. So I think that's the future, and we still have a long way to go.
Got it.
Cool. That's very cool. And I'm always like, kind of wondering how this can work, basically. Like, because you are, of course, like we know we know in a perfect world, every customer would ask the same question and would type everything perfectly, and it would be like, no, no mistake in the way they write and stuff like that, right? That's a perfect world. But we know
in the real world,
that
doesn't happen.
It doesn't work this way, right? Like the customer, sometimes they just don't know how to type a word, or they're gonna think the customer support is their friend, so they're just gonna talk way too friendly with them.
Right. But also, even all joking aside, right? In other words, you said earlier, you were repeating what you heard Irzan say. You said, I. But because of your pronunciation, it sounded to him like, hi.
Yeah.
And actually, to me, I was slightly confused at the beginning. And again, I'm not trying to be funny. But the reality is that that's hard, right? Because you know what you said and your brain knows what it thinks it said, but his brain is telling him it heard something completely different. Yeah. And if there wasn't a third party to explain to him, Irzan, what Martin really meant was this. So I'm curious about how technology solves that type of problem, right? Which is what you were asking.
Exactly. Yeah.
How do you do that? Because it's so nuanced and so subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the role of technology. Like what we did is actually like the brain of the machine to process the text. And then there's another layer of it. Like we use Siri, we use Google Assistant, what we call as the automated speech recognition. And I think that's the piece that could go hand in hand in the future, that we can talk literally to everything. Now we might be able to talk to our smart speaker, but in the future, I believe we can talk to smart devices all around us. I can talk to the window beside me and hey, please order me a Grab or Gojek for a ride.
I remember, you remind me of something. I remember when I was in Hong Kong, this must have been in 2004, and I was setting up a business for Goldman Sachs back then. And remember, it's 2004. So there were no smartphones. There were barely even kind of like slightly intelligent phones. And there was a guy walking down the street in Hong Kong, just on the other side of, I forget what it was, Queens Road or something. I can't remember. And he was just like talking to himself. And he was very adamant about whatever, his hands were in the air. He was doing this kind of thing. And he was just going back and forth. And I just thought, oh my God, that dude's insane. But really, he had a Bluetooth speaker in the other. He had one of those Jabras in his ear. But I couldn't see that. And it wasn't so prevalent back then that it didn't make any sense. It took me a while to figure out, I mean, he still may be insane, but he's probably talking to his wife, right? About picking up milk on the way home from work. But this idea that you can embed the ability to understand language into any inanimate object actually is quite interesting. And I want to ask about commerce, right? That's what we talk about here. But now that we've established all these things around the artificial intelligence and the natural language processing and sort of the development from SMSing on Blackberries to talking to Windows.
Yeah, it's like
it's a big progression.
Yeah.
Is there a situation where, like for instance, Martin and I went shopping today to go buy some lighting and to buy a tripod, right? Mm-hmm. And we were there, since we're in Thailand, we had to ask the guy, do you speak English? Mm-hmm. Because we live in Thailand. So it's up to us really to learn Thai, but we just want to know. And he said a little bit. But are you suggesting that at some point in time, we'll just be able to walk into a store and talk to the tripod itself and say, can you tell me like what material you're made out of and how much it's going to cost and where you were manufactured? And then the device will answer somehow through Bluetooth or whatever, like into my phone or into my headphones. Is that possible? Is that what's going to happen?
That's giving me an idea, Michael. And sorry, Irzan, but I cannot stop laughing inside of me because imagine you say yes and imagine that's possible. Then we can ask a tripod, why are you better than him? And we can ask him why are you better than him?
I know, the same thing because that's the question we asked today.
So why are you better? Yeah, that's exactly the question we asked.
Yeah, it was why is this one 5,000 baht and this one 1,200 baht? And the guy was like, this one's made out of diamonds and this is only made out of aluminum.
So I asked the guy why this one is better than this one because it's 5 times the price. So if we can talk to a tripod, we can make them talk to.
Could you imagine the more expensive tripod just getting really sad? Just overpriced kind of thing. Anyway, go ahead, Irzan. You were saying?
Yeah, what I was saying that I think that's the far-fetched future, and I believe in 10 to 20 years we'll get there, but at least what I can think of what might be coming in the next 5 years is you have a virtual assistant in every store who knows having the knowledge like the guy who's you're asking, the storekeeper. having the knowledge about the items they have, and then imagine that they could scrap information from Google reviews, from Amazon, or from Lazada, and so on. I think that's the future of commerce. But if you talk about where we are today, I think a couple of minutes ago we talked about the novelty, right?
Yep.
Now we talk about the reality.
Yes.
Being pragmatic about where the technology is and where the market is. Talking about commerce, probably we have heard the term of conversational commerce for the last 5 to 6 years. It's been coined all along. In Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia and Thailand, conversational commerce is the heart of commerce. Because first, as we know that we are like this kind of countries that who are using like messaging applications for everything.
More than anywhere else in the world, in a way.
Totally. We use WhatsApp, Line, Facebook Messenger, not only to connect with our family, peers, colleagues, but a lot of like business deals and transactions could be done through WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the core of conversational commerce in a traditional way. And then looking how people shop, especially like the rise of like micro retailers, the micro sellers. Now the likes of Instagram is accessible, smartphone is getting cheaper. Instagram becoming like I would say replacing Google when it comes looking for information about products, about retailers, about item. The customer journey is always like that. You look up for the item you like on Instagram, and then you go to the bio of the account. Either they will redirect you to WhatsApp or Line, maybe in Thailand, and you have a chat with a merchant, right? With the retailers. And you took a screenshot of the item you like. You ask, hey, do you have the stock available for this size? For example, if I want to buy shoes, you have like size US 9. It will take a while, definitely, for the sellers to look up for the stock availability, because he or she might be handling like 1,000 or 100 of customers.
Right.
Sending some inquiries. And then final reply, and then here's the link of the payment, or like here's my bank account, and then I make the transfer to my, let's say like mobile banking. I take a screenshot of my proof. He or she will check it out, check to the bank account whether the money is in, and make the shipping. It's so very cumbersome, but it works. The conversion is very, very high. So the big question is like, how can we make conversational commerce more accessible? And also, I think in a more streamlined and automated way, because the market opportunity is huge. In the Southeast Asia alone, if we talk about Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, it will be like a $42 billion market by 2025, growing 6 times from 2019.
Yeah, I mean, according to BCG already, I think in the United States, it's a $35 billion a year market for conversational commerce. But you're right. Particularly in Indonesia and in Thailand, 2 of what I'll call the biggest social media markets in the world. What that means is that we're spending more time online, but also more time chatting with each other, whether you're right, it's online or WhatsApp, or in some cases, Viber, which still exists, right?
Viber, yeah.
And Facebook Messenger and all these other platforms. Are we going to run into a situation? So here's the way I look at it. You know, before everybody had an ability, before restaurants and stores had the ability to take orders online, right? You kind of had to walk in, you had to call them, and even their POSs weren't automated. But now all the POSs, right, the point of sales machinery that they have is all automated. Mm-hmm. And right now there are some stores where you can use WhatsApp and Line and Messenger and stuff like that to do some things, but it's not properly manned. In other words, at some point, somebody has to manage that. Now, you could have a bot doing that. I'd like to, maybe you can talk about how bots can manage most of that process, and then talk about how AI just drops, if it does, for like more complex questions. And then are we going to get to a situation where every retail shop has some kind of conversational commerce in it, the same way they all have an electronic POS now? Is that going to happen as well? So there's a few questions in there.
That's a very good question, Michael. So I think the first thing we need to understand is, even though there are e-commerce marketplaces like Lazada,
right,
Shopee, Indonesia's Tokopedia, and then there is this food delivery service like GrabFood, GoFood.
Yep,
why people still people use WhatsApp or Instagram or Line to connect to their merchants?
Yep.
And the funny thing that we came to think instantly, we assume that if we just simply automate the service and then create a flow of automation with chatbots with some bit of NLP in there, people will find it useful. But that's a simplification apparently after we learn further. So when people, they make a chat, they want to have understanding about the stock is available or not. Right. They want to get more information about the product. They want to get more advice or recommendation. And I think this is the piece that looking at the status quo of technology is still very, very hard to automate. But there are ways to make it easier. So that's a simple thing like, imagine a merchant, they need to address inquiries coming from WhatsApp, Instagram, Line, but in different applications. It's quite painful. The operation manager don't have the data, which agents or with sales admin is the most responsive, how the customer responds. The most simple thing is unifying all these fragmented chat applications into one, or we call it the omni-channel messaging experience. So that's what we also do at Kata.ai. That's the core stuff. Before we get there, after that, then we will find a way like what needs to be automated, because we thought that conversational commerce is one size fits all. The reality is not. When people ask about food, it's more like straightforward, because I see the coffee, I see the cake, fine. Maybe like 1-2 questions, we can do some FAQs. If I have a question about clothing, like dress, I think it's more complex. You will ask, what about this brand? How do you compare like the size medium for your brand compared to that brand, for example? My body size is something like this. What would you recommend? I think it's more complex. In that case, the AI piece will be on the back end, the way I look at it, making agents responding to inquiries faster and providing like intelligent suggestion so they could work in a more streamlined way. So I think that's the reality of what we have today.
So you mean like today the AI actually help the customer support team to answer faster and don't like directly answer to the end customer, right? Yeah,
correct. So I think Martin, that's the current status quo.
So it's kind of like a hybrid system, right? Like you still need some human to handle the customer support, but these humans are helped and backed by AI who like make their work much easier and faster, right? But they still will change, so there's no mistake. And in case there's something too hard that comes in, then they can process it, right? But it still teach the AI behind, and hopefully the AI gets better and better and better at automated stuff, right? That's smart.
Correct.
That's a good way to do it.
So I've got a few questions. Can I just jump in for a second?
Mm-hmm.
So just a bunch of things. First, really quickly, how do you make the handoff between the chatbot or the artificial intelligent agent and a human, right? So let's say I'm just asking really simple stuff like, do you have the Rode Pod mic in stock? Yes, I do. Great. Is it still $125? Yes, it is. Great. Can I get an XLR cable with that in orange? Yes, I can. Great. These are easy things for an AI and for a chatbot to answer.
Mm-hmm.
But if I say something a little bit more complex where, okay, that's great. I'm glad that you have that in stock, but should I buy the NTSA 1? Should I buy the Rode Pod mic, or should I buy the Procaster? And if I'm going to use it together with the Rode Podcasting Pro mechanism, what should I do? The bot is just going to get confused, and fair enough, because a human would get confused too. But how do you handle the sort of seamless handoff? Because I know a lot of people are working on this, right? Where the bot just goes, I don't know. And then a human just jumps in and says, okay, let me just confirm that you really want to get this type of thing and that type of thing. And then they help you solve that problem in a way that only a human can. How do you handle that? And then I've got so many other things I want to ask you because it's so interesting, but go ahead.
Sure. I think looking where we are today, if that kind of case happened, so it's very, I think, irritating every time we ask about, and I'm sorry I couldn't answer your question. So the way we would handle that, we will automatically reroute the information to the agent. So thanks for your question. I will let my buddy here, for example, Adam, to handle these inquiries. But the best way right from the beginning, the brand should inform the customers that they're talking to a virtual assistant, to a bot.
Right.
So to manage expectation. So I think that's how we do agent handover, so to speak. Because otherwise, if it's too late to handle, I think it eliminates the possibility to close the sales.
Yeah, and actually, I'm gonna just add add something to Michael's question before, Michael, you add your new question, because I know you have a lot of ideas, and that's a very, very interesting topic. So that's why we have so many questions. But like, what I want to say is that as soon as I see that I'm talking to a virtual assistant, I just close the window, to be honest. Like, it's because like all the bad experience that I had before with very bad chatbots and AI. And most of the time, like, we call it AI, but it's not really AI. It's more like a bunch of, of ready answers, and there's like always like 3 or 4 options, and they create like a huge tree of all the possibilities. And in case you're not inside, then hey, yeah, let me give it to a real customer support specialist, and it ends up there 99.9% of the time, because their thing is very bad, right? So that's my experience with AI, and also like, because like I am building a startup where we are creating e-commerce website, so kind of like Shopify, but of course much better than that.
Better than that.
Just like so much better than that, of course. So what I did is that I went to my customers and I asked them like, hey guys, like, why don't you use an AI or a chatbot for your customer support or for your pre-sales question, right? And this was the number one thing that came out of this discussion that I had with my customer, was like, yeah, because most of the time AI are bad. so like, people are used to bad AI. So if we put some AI, most of our customers won't give it a try, like, just because we are used to something bad, right? So how do you, if you do, how do you solve this?
How do you change that mindset?
Yeah, right? this bad mindset because of the bad history, let's say, about AI.
That is true, Martin. I mean, like, the fiasco of chatbots, people spoke highly about it, but somehow it didn't manage to deliver expectation. In our case, sometimes we had that kind of experience in the past too. So I think what we did is that we have to be very pragmatic, like looking at the data first, making sure there's a real communication between the agents and the customers, and making sure that training data is bulletproof, handling like 70-80% of the questions which are coming to that. Because I've seen a lot of like people, they're building like a chatbot without considering looking like the real user experience. Because it's always about, you always put yourself in the customer's shoes and then optimize for the most suitable user or customer experience and work the technology backwards. It's not the other way around. Because if we start with technology and we try to expect a build, we expect the technology to serve the user experience, sometimes it doesn't work out. So I think that's the key part. So, which led to the issue sometimes that we have to put the AI at the back end while the customer service serving the customer at the forefront. How the AI could help the customer service agents work faster.
Yeah, I think that's a smart way to approach it. Like, for example, for my customer support team, which nowadays is quite small, but like I would love to
and very French,
but like right now, I imagine the process, like instead of getting like 2 more agents, what about we made the agent reply twice faster because we get the AI to pre-write the answer for him, and you just need to hit send. That's fine. Oh, this one is not
good, so change it. Yeah,
let me just change it.
So this is my whole idea, right, around that artificial intelligence should augment human service. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't replace it. There are various, like I said, the reason why I gave the example that I gave is this in stock. Because that AI should be connected directly to a storeroom or a warehouse or some kind of ERP or warehouse management system, and they should know instantaneously in a way that a human would have to type. Mm-hmm. But this literally just goes right over the line, right into the stock system, into the warehouse system, and just comes back with a yes or no. It's a binary thing. That should be really easy. And as long as, I think Irzan said this, as long as you tell the client, simple questions will be answered by an artificially intelligent agent, I don't think anybody cares. I think what they do care about is like, hi, my name is Frank. And you're just like, that's not a person. You're just definitely not a person. Don't Frank me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's definitely not real. Yeah. I think that's frustrating because then when it breaks down, then people get frustrated.
And you damage the brain.
Yeah.
Totally.
But my follow on is this, right? Is that, you said when you were, I can't remember the word you used again, when you were going cold turkey, right? When you're doing your cold turkey start, you had to hire a bunch of agents to do the customer service so then you could train the artificial intelligence. It's a great strategy. In a way, it's the only strategy, right? But the beauty of the artificially intelligent assistant is that one of them can serve literally a limitless number of people as long as you have the bandwidth and like the servers and the disk space to do it. But how do you try to control for when you have that seamless handoff? Because nothing's worse than like being on the phone, you know, calling your bank to find out some information about your loan or whatever, and having them say, you know, the next available agent will be ready in 15 minutes. And you're like, I don't have 15 minutes. I need to know this thing right now. But if you have the AI person doing it, then they can handle everything at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if 15 people or 50 people need to talk to an agent because of some issue, unrelated, right? How do you figure out how to staff that part of it? Because that, again, is going to help you do some more training. Like it's this virtuous circle, or it should be, right? How do you figure out how to staff that?
Come again, Martin? Sorry, Michael, what's your question here?
So how do you figure out how to staff it? In other words, if the bots can answer 1 million questions at a time for 1 million people, let's say a certain percentage of them that's just too high, need to get a handover to a human. How do you figure out how to staff what that handover, how many people that is?
Right.
Yeah. Because that's good for training as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to the what kind of inquiries, like the severity. That's the role of natural language. Even though it seems that there's a agent handover, but we can see like the for example, the sentiment from the type of the words that they use, like how many, for example, exclamation marks, and then whether they use like all caps lock. Well, people are very, very urgent, and we should prioritize that. And that's also like another layer of machine learning in order like using AI to give a priority when it comes to the agent routing. So I think that's also possible. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the other things that I've learned over time, right, and I learned this at restaurants more than I've learned it at regular retail shops, and that is, you know, I went to a guy that makes hamburgers here. This is a true story. And outside of his restaurant, there were, you know, Grab drivers, there were linemen, there were Lala Move, like there were all these delivery people, you know, and inside the restaurant was like 50% full. And I said to him, what's the breakdown between who you serve here and who you serve via delivery? And he was like, oh my God, it's like 75% delivery. It's insanity. The orders just keep coming in, and it's like 25% in-house. And I said to him, okay, but how do you get the data to segment your clients and to learn more about them, and then to determine how much of this you need to order and that you need to order? And some of his frustration was around the fact that if he goes through sort of the big online food ordering platforms, he doesn't get any of that data. But it seems to me like if you use Kata.ai, like if I use it and I run a hamburger shop, I get the data as well. Do you see a move from these sort of big platforms into the individual companies that want to use it? Because they could never build the tech themselves, but now that you've built it, they can use it. Do they get a data benefit by doing that as well?
Exactly. I think we're here to aim the rebels, as Shopify said. So imagine like we are more into like the Shopify model, like enabling these merchants to have to build their own kind of like direct to consumer channel. Well, it's very hard to expect people to download another app, because you can imagine maybe you drink like three types of coffee brands, and then you have to install the app one by one. It's very painful, and it's very hard to develop. I mean, costly as well, and for getting people to download and use it, it's very tedious. And this is the role where I see like WhatsApp. WhatsApp is like the operating system, like a super app that we use every day in Indonesia. And the ID of the customer, I think that's the most valuable most valuable asset, how a brand should leverage. Because imagine, let's take a case like this. For example, I discover this brand over their website, and then I put the items on a basket, but then for some reasons, I didn't manage to the checkout. And then I will get a WhatsApp notification. Hey, Irzan, I noticed that you put this item on a basket. Let me know what I can help. Otherwise, you can also finish the payment on WhatsApp. And then, for example, if I need some help, then I'll be handed over to customer service agents. If I want to finish my payment on WhatsApp, it's also possible, connecting to the payment gateway out there. And that becomes the first touch point a brand could interact with their customers further, becoming a loyalty management, I would say, platform. Because otherwise, you get the data, you can ask them to reorder your products, and then they could speak to your customer service if needed, and then any other use cases. Same thing, like, for example, imagine that I was speaking to like an omnichannel retail brand, First, they had this one web store. And then next week, I go to the store, offline store in some malls, let's say in Bangkok, and then I make the purchase, and then the cashier asks me about my phone number. And then I will get notification after that. Hey, Irzan, thanks for making your second purchase this week. What can I help? Blah, blah. And I think that's the real omnichannel experience, like leveraging this messaging channel, especially WhatsApp, becoming like your medium, how a brand could build relationship with their customers.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds very good. Actually, the omni-channel ID is very, very important in e-commerce. Like almost every brand try to do that, try to have like several touch points with their customer because like it works. That's it, right? And like most of the customers, if you only talk to them through email, and have like what 10% open rate, 5%, 50%, depends on your brand. If you do like some social media stuff on Instagram or Facebook, then same, you're gonna have very little coverage. But if you add up all of that, in the end, you might touch a much bigger proportion of your audience, and then you make them more engaged, and you can turn them into more repeated customers. So this is why the omni-channel ID always work, and like a lot of brands try to do that. So we are doing also like a lot of stuff like as you said, for example, with the abandoned carts, like you go to the shop, you had something into your cart, and then you connect the software that's gonna get the email address or the phone number, and will remind you, hey, here's and you forgot to buy your cart. So like so here it is. So currently, what I see the most in e-commerce is that people are gonna send a coupon. So we're going to send you a discount, like if you order in the next 1 hour or 24 hours. But that's true. I never seen someone who say, hey, you didn't buy your cart. Can I help? Do you have a question? Like, is there something that I can do to help you? And this is true because like if you send that and if a guy actually answer and say, yes, I need help, you need people to answer back, right? And this is like where you need staff and you need like customer support agent and all of that. But I see that the abandoned cart strategy that people do in e-commerce are very, very effective. When you send a coupon, like a discount, it really helps close the sales and then increase revenue like a lot.
Yeah.
So what if we say now, because we have AI, so we have like a better customer support team, and we say, hey, can we help? Can we like increase even more these conversion rates? That's a question worth trying, I think.
I want to go. Are you there, Irzan?
Yeah, I'm here.
I want to go back to something you said earlier about unifying the fragmented world of chat applications. This is something that I think about a lot, right? So if you can make an equivalency between how fragmented chat applications are to how fragmented the hotel industry is or the airline industry is, right? And then you can say on top of the airline industry and what are they called? GDAs, I can't remember what they're called, GDSs, right? You have companies like Booking.com and Traveloka. They kind of sit on top. They build a platform on top of every other platform to control the mechanism for everything. So they're indifferent to which hotel you're booking as long as you're booking a hotel, right? They don't care. And they're not affiliated with any single one of them. Should somebody build a chat app that just consolidates, right, and unifies all of the chat apps that already are out there, and if somebody builds another chat app, they have to connect to that to do the same thing that like Agoda did for travel or Traveloka did, or all these, or even like Kayak did for airlines. Does that make sense? So that now you only have one app and everybody else who signed up for a different chat thing, it just feeds into your one big chat app. So it's not so fragmented. And then there's a follow-on question to that. For a company like Kata.ai, right? If you've done 1 billion conversations and you are helping retailers through conversational commerce, whether they're gigantic retailers or small retailers, do a bunch of things like get their own data, do customer service, analyze that data to give customer service, to get better products, to get a better product breakdown. If you want people to stay on platform and you understand what everybody else is doing, should a company like Kata also be in the payments business? In other words, and there's more to that, right? Let's say I'm on a chat app and I'm going back and forth. Let's say I'm using WhatsApp. It doesn't really matter, or whatever this unified app is that I was talking about. And Kata's managing the process for a retailer. And I say something like, is this in stock? Yes, it is. And then I say, okay, great. I'd like to buy it. How can I pay for it? If Kata can insert itself into the payment process, right? That's great. But what if the retailer then comes back, or the bot automatically comes back and says, you may want to buy some product protection for that, and we can distribute or sell you some insurance. We can embed some insurance in the product, because we know that insurance works really well at POS, at point of sale. Contextual insurance is like the new thing. Can you do that? And can you take a piece of that? And then also, if they're always shopping at the same place, can Kata be involved then in the payments, the insurance, and then the loyalty as well, to build out this gigantic, like, I control the retail experience platform? Does that make sense?
That's a huge vision.
Makes sense, Michael. Totally makes sense. We were thinking about this too. So I think answering your first question is that if we talk about from consumer perspective, I just use like one chat app that could
everything,
chat to people on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Line, and others. It'll be amazing if you could have that. But the reality is it's very impossible due to they are like platforms who are battling with each other. But if the expectation if building like a omni-channel or multi-channel chat dashboard for businesses, that's what we are doing at Kata.ai. So enabling the agents to do more, streamlining all the chats into one platform from WhatsApp, Instagram, direct message, Facebook Messenger, Line, and others. Does that answer your question, Martin, for the first one?
Yeah, so the businesses don't care, right? In other words, instead of having 5 different devices, and a chat comes in on WhatsApp, or a chat comes in online, or a chat comes in on Facebook Messenger, they just get a chat, right? And they can answer it on their one unified thing. So it just sits there and says, Michael has a question about Rode microphones. And they just answer it. They don't care whether it comes in on WhatsApp or not, right?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And then answering your second question, I think that's the beauty part of it. Once you manage the communication and then you know how to make people convert. And that's the piece that you can be creative in making your business model works. I mean, not because instantly what we think about building a customer service chat dashboard, it's like a SaaS model. But if you're in Southeast Asia, well, SaaS will be a golden age in the next 10 years. Right now it's the age of commerce and fintech. Yeah, how you can take piece out of it. So I think that's also the area that we're looking at Kata now. How we can build a really conversational commerce platform, not only like a customer service platform, so to speak.
Right.
And then the interesting part is, gentlemen, what we see the trend is coming from the big companies like Twilio, for example, like $1 billion public companies who are orchestrating all this communications through WhatsApp, SMS, and others.
Right.
And some other companies like MessageBird and others. Now, after communications, they are jumping into what they call as customer data platform. Because for you to build a hyper-personalized interaction, building context not only from the chat that you receive as a business or as an agent, but taking the context of the user history, taking context from the previous conversation history, the world knowledge, the industry knowledge. I think that's the building blocks that businesses needs to build a hyper-personalized conversational commerce.
Right.
Yeah, and when you have a team who do that, like they need some time to read all of the previous tickets, and like even if you can summarize it and make it easier, but they still have to mentally goes back into the previous inquiry and the previous problem and the profile of a customer, right? And AI can get all of that almost instantly, because that's so much faster for the software to think about it, right? So it can definitely, as you said, maybe not to replace human, but empower human, make them so much more powerful and be able to do so much more things. So in the end, you have less staff costs to be able to handle just customer support. Am I in the right direction, Irzan, or not at all?
Yeah, totally, Martin. That makes sense. That's the power of AI to make the personalization through automation. I mean, if you ask me what's the future of conversational AI or conversational commerce, it should be personalized as if we are opening Netflix. What you have on your home screen and what I have is different, right, Martin and Michael? And then when you open, let's say Instagram, and you go to Explore page, you will be presented with the content you might like, account that you might follow, but you haven't explored yet. So it suits your taste. The same thing, I think, one day with conversational AI or having a virtual assistant, it would be following the style of your language, for example. The information, the presented menu and promo will be different from one to another. And I think that's the future of conversational AI commerce, like doing personalization and empowering the people behind it to do more.
But if you want to do that, it means like you get to be very, very, very big to help the customer everywhere he goes, right? And every website he goes, he needs to connect to the same AI, which can help him with the same style and the personalization, right?
Yeah, but I think if we try to be anything for everyone at day one, I think it's impossible. So I think the most rational way is using the Amazon way, starting with one vertical and category. They started with books, right, before expanding to others. The same thing with conversational commerce. To make it work in the most personalized way, you pick like one vertical industry, you do best at that, and then you move on to others. That's my way of thinking on to make it more realistic.
So I have two questions for you regarding that. The first one is how hard it is for you to go into a new verticals.
Yeah, it depends, like how deep, right? If we just want to do some like automation layer on FAQs and stuff, connect to these APIs, I think that's possible, but we aim to do more. So right now we are trying to crack like the commerce piece in conversational commerce. I think that's the focus right now. And then there are like big areas, what we look like healthcare, financial service, education, and others.
Is it like a matter of months, a matter of weeks, a matter of years to be able to have something that works well?
I would say right now it's still the matters of years. If you want to have like a world-class like experience, if you want to have like a social experience, it can be done in a matter of like weeks or months.
Weeks or months. Okay. And my second question is, what about new language? Like for example, you launch in French. How hard it is for you, with what you have, to be able to provide the same thing in a totally new language? Is it like same, a matter of weeks, a month, or years?
Yeah. The good thing these days, there's a technique called transfer learning. Now we are able to do it in Indonesian language and in English. With that basis, it's easier for us to work on new language. It can be right now, I think, in a matter of weeks and months, based on our internal research discussion. Different from like months ago that needs to, you need to have data from each of language. Although by the end of the day, you would need still need the data from each language to fine tuning the language model, especially getting the context of the product of the brands. But now it's getting easier, so to speak. AI has grown exponentially.
Okay. Can you give me more details about that and how you can make French valuable in a matter of months? I just try to understand because I'm very, very curious about that. And to be honest, I could be one of your customers.
Exactly. I know. This is like a reverse sales call.
Please tell me how you can help my staff in a matter of weeks. That would be very awesome. But to be honest, I'm very like doubtful. That's why I'm asking you that. Not because I want to be mean, just because I really want to.
He wants to have the product.
Want his to work very, very well, because like I really emphasize a lot on customer support and pre-sales question at my company.
Right.
And this is one of the biggest key difference we have with like huge giants like Shopify, for example. And to be fair, I think like every startup has this edge to have like awesome customer support, because it's much easier like to serve a small number of customers than a huge number of customers, right? So we can be awesome there. So we have to do it. So great. So if we do that, it needs to be great. But I'm very curious on how it can scale to multiple language, like in terms of business, right? So how can you do that in a few weeks or in a few months in French?
Yeah, I wouldn't speak the details here. Otherwise, I'm opening like a secret out there. But imagine these days, the key components are, we have English, and then there's transfer learning. The third piece is machine translation. Like we now even can do like translating from English to Indonesian language or vice versa. And if we try to find like French data sets, it's a lot in internet, and I think it's possible.
So we use existing data and then translate what you already have into French, and back then, so you can use all the data that you already have. That's kind of the idea, right?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's more, I think transfer learning is actually more complicated than that, but more or less that style. Look, I think we've had an unbelievable conversation, and I also feel like we could go on for hours on this.
Should we?
I feel like maybe we should have Irzan back on again to do this. Irzan, hopefully this was as much fun for you. I mean, I learned a ton, and I've got, my job is to ask questions because I'm just so curious, and I've got plenty more. But I think we'll let you go. It was really, really awesome to have you as a guest. It was nice to meet you as well, actually, and to learn more about the transformation from Yes Boss into Kata.ai, because I had wondered what had happened. So congratulations for you on that. And let's keep the conversation going. We'd love to have you back, but thank you again for coming in today. Thanks, Martin, for amazing questions on your side as well.
And thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael and Martin, for this opportunity. I think it's been a very fun conversation. Awesome. Thank you so much. I would love to get in touch with you guys.
We'll definitely do that.
We'll definitely do that. Thank you very much, Irzan, and I look for Kata.ai to be
in French.
Available in French soon.
Cool. Okay, guys, take care.
Bye.
Bye.